listeners and learners, welcome once again to our Namco Radio studio. I'm Mims Low. Listeners, in lesson 4 today, we are going to talk about the systems of government. So, there are many systems of government in the world, and we look at 6 major systems, namely monarchy, parliamentarian, republics, one-party states, dictatorship, and totalitarianism. Let's look at the definition of each of these systems. Listen carefully. A monarchy is a system in which the country is ruled by a monarch, a king, queen, or an emperor. Parliamentarian democracy is the system of government in which political authorities lies with the people. It means the government of the people by the people. Republic is a parliamentary democracy in which the head of state is a president. One-party state means there is only one political party because the ruling party does not allow any others to stand for election. Dictatorship, on the other hand, comes about when one person or a small group of people controls the government. Totalitarianism is a political system in which the state controls every aspect of an individual's life. Listeners, I have political analysis with me in the studio, and we will discuss each of the 6 systems in detail. So listeners, remember we said we talk about the systems of government. Ladies, can you introduce yourselves, please?
Okay, good afternoon, listeners. My name is Clara.
Good afternoon, listeners. My name is Shanella.
Thank you very much. Now, as I've already told the listeners, we will discuss only 6 of the systems of government, namely the monarchies, the parliamentary democracies, republics, one-party states, dictatorships, and totalitarianisms. Clara, starting with you, what is a monarchy?
Thank you, Mimi. A monarchy is a system in which the country is ruled by a monarch, in other words, a king, queen, or emperor. You must remember in traditional monarchies in the past, the supreme power of the state was invested in the monarch. Monarchs based their power on the doctrine of the divine right of kings.
Oh, so what does that mean?
Well, this doctrine claimed that the monarch ruled directly through God's will. Therefore, monarchs had complete and absolute power.
Monarchs generally gained their positions through inheritance. The eldest son of the king automatically became the next king when his father died.
Well, there are still countries in Europe, Asia, and Africa that have monarchs. For example, in Europe are the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Norway.
These countries are called constitutional monarchies.
So, what are the constitutional monarchies then?
This means that the monarchs have limited power and their role is mainly ceremonial. Yet, the monarchs still represent their countries as the head of state.
Some countries in Africa and Asia, such as Swaziland, Lesotho, Morocco, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, still have monarchs who exercise considerable power.
Okay, so looking at the French Revolution, one can say that monarchies have been criticized. What were the reasons?
Well, they were mainly criticized for the following reasons. The people are not consulted on the choice of the monarch, therefore the system is said to be undemocratic. Monarchies are hereditary, so there is no guarantee that the successor to the throne will be competent to rule. And the monarch may become corrupt or accumulate great wealth at the expense of the people. Those in power benefit while the masses live in poverty. But on the other hand, Mimi, some people have favored monarchies because they maintain traditions, they create an unchanging and stabilizing influence, It's argued that they are not as easily corrupted as political heads of state.
Listeners, I hope that you have a clearer picture of the monarchies. They say democracy came from the Greek words demos, which mean the people, and kratos, which means authority or rule. So, Clara, please give us more detail on parliamentary democracy.
Oh, thank you, Mimi. Parliamentary democracy is a system of government in which political authority lies with the people.
So what does that exactly mean?
It means government of the people by the people. In a democracy, the people choose the government by voting in free elections. So, the government that comes into power was chosen by the majority of the people. The final power lies with the people. Who can replace the government in a future election? In an election, people vote for individuals to represent them in parliament. Parliament is a body of individuals called members of parliament who represent their voters.
I know the members of parliament hold meetings in the houses of parliament.
That is correct. You must also remember that the parliament makes the laws for the country, and these are put into practice by the government and the civil service.
These laws are administered by the judges of the country, who are called the judiciary.
In a democracy, there are regular elections, and this gives people a chance to vote for a new government if they wish. Elections should be free and fair.
Listeners should know that in addition to elections, a political system must also have the following attributes in order to be called a democracy: an independent judiciary that administers justice, all citizens have the right to a fair trial, elected representatives should be accountable to the people and the law.
And I think elections are a way of keeping check on the government, preventing it from becoming corrupt or too powerful.
Yes, I think it's a good way. I would like to conclude on parliamentary democracies by saying that monarchies like the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Japan are also parliamentary democracies.
Which actually means that Prime Minister, who is a member of the party in power, leads the government, but the King or Queen is the head of state and represents the nation for ceremonial purposes.
That's quite interesting. They also say that a republic is a parliamentary democracy. What is the difference then?
Well, it is true. A republic is a parliamentary democracy in which the president is the head of state. The president is elected either directly by the people or by their elected representatives. Usually, the president can hold office for only a limited number of years. Samuel Daniel Shafishuna Nujoma was inaugurated as the founding president of Namibia on 21st of March 1990.
He was subsequently re-elected in 1994 and 1999, serving until 2005. Many African countries, including Namibia, are republics.
China is a totalitarian state ruled by the leaders of the Communist Party of China who will not allow any freedom of its. Yes, Chanel. Before they became republics, many African countries had been British colonies and still had the monarch of the United Kingdom as their head of state.
Even today, Australia has the British Queen as its head of state, even though it has become independent. Am I correct in saying that Australia is not a republic?
You're 100% correct. But many people in Australia want this situation to change, like arguing that Australia should become a republic and have its own head of state.
I think that's still going to take a while. What's a one-party state, Shanala?
As you can see, an important characteristic of parliamentary democracy is that there should be several political parties which can stand for election. In some countries, however, there is only one political party because the ruling party doesn't allow any other stand for election.
Yeah, and these countries are also called one-party states. A number of African countries became one-party states soon after independence. They argued that if there were a large number of parties, then the country would split into different, conflicting groups. And still, there are still elections in one-party states, but people can only choose representatives from the ruling party.
So in other words, people don't have the power to vote another party into power.
That's true, unfortunately. One advantage of a one-party state is that there's less argument in the country. But the major disadvantage is that the ruling party may begin to abuse its power and object to criticism.
But I must say, most African one-party states have returned to the system of parliamentary democracy. Idi Amin Dada, I think, was one of the biggest dictators in history. So, what is a dictatorship, Clara?
Well, a dictatorship comes about when one person or a small group of people controls the government. There are no elections in a dictatorship, so the people have no power over the government.
The government simply dictates the people, telling them what to do. You talked about Idi Amin Dada as a dictator. Hastings Panda in Malawi was a dictator who even dictated what clothes people should wear.
That's true. Dictatorships are often set up by military leaders who seize control of the government by force. These governments are called military dictatorships. Well, and even a notorious military dictator in Africa was General Sani Abacha of Nigeria, who died in June 1998.
Wow. So, let's look at totalitarianism. Totalitarianism is a political system in which the state controls every aspect of an individual's life. Yes, this must be totally weird. Totalitarianism is often achieved through the establishment of a single-party rule. So this means the political leaders of totalitarian states have absolute power.
Well, that's true. Most of these leaders hold on to power by means of a secret police force, propaganda through mass media, and not allowing any freedom of speech. This means no discussion or criticism of the state is allowed, and there's widespread use of terror tactics. Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, for example, China is a totalitarian state ruled by the leaders of the Communist Party of China, who will not allow any freedom of political discussion.
Listeners, thank you very much for listening. We've come to the end of our discussion. And thank you very much, Clara and Shanella, for sharing this program with us. Till next time, goodbye.
This program was brought to you by NAMCOL with funding from the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture and the Commonwealth of Learning.